if you're learning a new programming language, you might be inclined to think that the first thing that you should do is probably to pull up Google or Udemy and look up a course on the language that you're learning. Or if you're a bit old school, maybe you pick up a book instead. While the method of taking courses is tried and true, unfortunately, many of them are just very, very long. It's very common that a lot of these courses will essentially beat a dead horse, going over very, very basic syntax type stuff and fundamentals such as loops and conditional statements, which if this is not your first language, you most definitely already know this. And instead of watching 10 videos about how to write a for loop in the new language of choice, you could essentially just Google that syntax and save yourself a lot of time, right? Something important to realize about programming is that the fundamentals are practically the same across all languages. They all have loops, conditionals, variables, etc. One of the biggest differences that you're going to find when moving from one language to another is going to be the syntax, which syntax is really just a fancy word for how something is written. However, this is not always 100% true. Some languages do actually have special features that are not available across all languages. A really good example of this would be that JavaScript is a single-threaded language, and then when you look at languages like Go or Golang, depending on how you like to say it, Go has features called Go routines, which essentially allow you to run multi-threaded operations. You can't really do this in JavaScript. You can kind of simulate multi-threaded operations with like async await and things like that, but it's really not quite the same thing. But those are features that are language specific, so that's really just something to keep in mind. Now, about my situation. When I joined my current company, I knew that there was a fair amount of C# that was used here, and I had never used this language. I had never seen C# or written it before in my life. And if you fast forward about 8 months, to this date, I have still not taken any courses on C# at all. What I opted to do instead was just to dive right into the code and start doing tickets and solving problems. Also, just a quick side note, if you haven't already, please consider hitting the like button to help this video with the YouTube algorithm and help more people find my content. Going about things in this method has allowed me to learn a lot, but also be productive and not bog down my time with another course. It's really hard to get stuck in tutorial hell again if you don't start doing tutorials, so that's just an added bonus. But realistically, I've been able to pick up pretty much everything that I've needed to know in order to solve the specific problems at hand. This really goes hand in hand with one of the most important things that I picked up during my coding bootcamp back in 2020, which was how to ignore complexity. Essentially, this means ignoring parts of a bigger picture that do not directly apply to the problem at hand. If I don't need to know specific parts of a programming language in order to solve a problem at hand, then I don't necessarily need to focus on learning about those things at this time. I could probably still find lots of benefits from doing a course on the language. I could probably learn a lot more specifics about the language or how to implement certain patterns in the language or frameworks that are commonly used with it, like .NET. But so far it just hasn't really been necessary, at least not in my situation. If I'm having trouble understanding parts of the code, then essentially I will research and Google the problem. If I can't figure anything out, then I know that I can always reach out to other engineers on my team, and they're always more than happy to give me a hand. I don't think I've had a single time where somebody on my team was not willing to go out of their way to give me a hand with something when I either lacked understanding or just needed help on figuring something out. So definitely props to those guys on my team. I really appreciate like every day that I get to work with these guys and learn new stuff from them all the time. Anyways guys, that's my take on how to quickly become productive when learning a new programming language. If you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the little notification bell so that you stay up to date with my content. Until next time guys.